Hello, everyone. Sir, so the day my mother died, some really, really, really crazy things happened. Um, Spiritual things, supernatural things at the airport. So after my mom died, after the funeral home came to pick her up, my sister and I got together. We started talking about things. I ended up taking Tiny. My sister got all the good stuff, of course. And so I packed up and began heading to DC to get to National Airport to head back to Portland. When I got there, I found out that I had the wrong type of carrier for Tiny, and they said I wouldn't be able to fly with that carrier. You had to be able to go under the seat, and I thought they were going to check Tiny under the plane, and obviously that wasn't the case. So they said I had an hour. I had to go out and find a new carrier. And at that point, at the ticket counter is where everything hit me about what had happened that day, and all the emotions and everything else at the first, I'd say, barrier hit me, and all the emotions hit me at the ticket counter. And it was so bad that I wasn't able to even read my phone. Just when that happened, there was a man who was standing maybe a few feet away as I started walking away. I'm trying to get Uber on my phone, but I'm just in a whole different emotional place. So he walks up to me and he says, "Are you okay?" And I said, I gotta get out of town and find a carrier for my mother's dog. And I'm still calling Tiny my mother's dog. It hasn't really hit me yet. So he takes the phone from me and he starts like clearing the caches and all that stuff. And then he hits the Uber icon. It cranks up. And then the next thing I know, Uber's here. So I thank the guy. He disappeared. So I go outside and I wait for the Uber. I get the guy, explain to him everything that's happening and what I got to do. So we zip into town. I asked him if he could watch Tiny for me. He wasn't willing to do that in the beginning, but as I started talking to him, he started to lighten up some. And so I run into Target, trying to look for a carrier for my mother's dog, for Tiny. Couldn't find anything there. I leave, and I know time's an issue, so I get out of Target and I start running to a PetSmart that I saw. And as I was running, I realized that there was movement behind me, and I looked back, and the taxi driver had Tiny, and he's just following behind me. At that point, I think he realized I was not in a good place. So I jump in the car, we go to PetSmart. I get in there, couldn't find, because of the way the Tiny shaped, I couldn't find a bag that worked for her. So I just grabbed one in faith and said that it's going to work. I manifested this. So we get into the taxi and we start heading back to the airport. By that time, I probably have 30 minutes to catch the flight. Alaska knew what was going on. I get back and I gave this guy every bit of cash that I had out of gratefulness for holding on to Tiny while I was going through this. I get out, and then I realize it's like 90 degrees out. I gotta take Tiny out of the container that she's in and get her in this little bag, and she's wiggling and she's really heavy. Tiny's about 30, 40 pounds. She wouldn't get in. There was a man that was standing like right against the wall where you go, for departures. And so he's just watching me. And so I have to put Tiny back in the carrier because it's not working. So he just walks up and says, "Let me help you." And so he holds the bag, and I get Tiny in, and it fit. It was a perfect fit. So now I'm getting there. So we close it up. I get back to the Alaska counter. I get in line. Now time is a thing. I check in the bag, and I go straight to a TSA checkpoint. Long line. I get through the line, and this guy sees my bags, sees the airline code, the city code. He goes, "You're supposed to be taking Alaska?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You're in the wrong place." So I waited all that time in that TSA line in the wrong place. He says, "You got to go down there." And if you've been to National Airport, it's a really, really long airport. And so I look, and my shoulders like flame because I carried, Tiny's heavy. So I hustle, and I get down there, another line. Now it's departure time. And I get there, and I get to where I was supposed to turn in my bags, and the TSA guy goes, "Hey, where's your bags?" And I said, "What bags?" And he says, "You check bags." And I just put my hands down. I gave up. And the TSA guys looked at me, and one of them said, "I'll go get your bags." But I already knew that I had missed my flight. It was just like the worst day ever. So they go get my bags, and I go through TSA. And when I do get to the gate, there was a line of Alaska Airlines folks. They were in line, and they held the plane, and they waited for me. So I get Tiny again. I was grateful. I get on the plane, and I get in my seat. And when I got in my seat, I broke down again. I just couldn't stop crying. And there was a lady sitting a couple of seats next to me, and they left the seat open between us. And the lady just kept smiling at me. And I never said a word to this lady because I was so messed up. And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching people. And I guess, I get on the plane, they got to seal up the aircraft. And so they're going through that process. So people are getting up, they're getting their bags, and I'm just kind of observing everybody on the plane. It's starting to get cool. And then the next thing I know, my right ear, and it felt like I had been swimming. And when you come out of the water, you know how your ears are all plugged up? Well, it even made that noise, right? That you know when you're underwater, and then from there, my mom came through, and she said, "Hi there." She said, "Junior." And then it came through the top of my head, "Junior." And I'm looking around, and everybody's moving, and I'm completely lucid. And I look at the lady, and she's smiling. And I cried the whole flight back. I couldn't look at Tiny. It was bad. And so this is stuff where God will place people when you're handling something that you're not capable of handling on your own. The Lord will never give you anything. God will never give you anything that you can't handle. And so He put people in place to help me get home safely, because I was not in a safe place. I wasn't in the right frame of mind, and it was bigger than me. But that day is when spirituality took a whole different meaning for me. And so there was a lot of things that happened in the years before that led up to this. And when you connect the dots, you could see that God was preparing me for something. And all the pieces fell in place for all that to happen. So right now I'm going through another transition. And as you go through this, and these energy shifts, and you're going up through your frequencies, it's harder and harder each time. Your body goes through some type of change where there's fatigue, intestinal issues, always have intestinal issues, sleeplessness, the sense of depression, but you know you're not depressed. Your body's just completely tired. And so it's like it's cyclical, and I go through these things, and then they go away. And then here I am in the gym, and I feel so much better after I come out on the backside of that. But what I realize now is that these things are going to continue to happen as you go through ascending through the frequencies. And the other part of that is that people that you associate with that are not attuned to you, they will start to disappear, and you'll start getting in a new crowd of people that have commonalities with you when it comes to being on the right frequencies and getting messages and having folks that spiritually have your back instead of people that are being more worldly because things, hey, how are you? Good morning. Because things, your values change, your perspectives change, your thoughts on really important institutional things that you were conditioned into change, like religion. You see things from a totally different perspective, and you start to question things that you normally took for granted, that you were afraid to question before because there might have been consequences to it. And so everything happens. And so at 63, I was thinking to myself, I was like, how come I'm going through this at this age? And I guess the answer to that is I was not ready before. I hope everyone has a really, really good day. You all take care.